Reality is like a film set. There are directors,
Action!
producers,
Are we on schedule?
and even actors.
Can somebody get me a coffee?
The trick is realizing that you are playing all of these roles. You are the executive producer of your reality. My name is Daniel,
My name is Lauren.
and we're here to break the fourth wall to discover what's behind the scenes. And what you hear just might have you saying, "That's so meta." Welcome everybody to That's So Meta, where we discuss the mystical, the magical, and the metaphysical. We took a week off because we're busy. And we got a lot going on. We're popping off.
We got a rainstorm.
We have a nice rainstorm. You guys can't
Ambient.
see it, but right here is a window and it's raining and water's coming in and splashing me. I'm actually physically wet.
But it's nice. It's a nice ambience.
I
It's a
could
very
touch
relaxing day.
my hand is in the water. Watch. Okay, so my hand is wet, actually, from rain.
But it's nice. It cooled off.
It's nice and cooled off. It's been in the 90s on a regular basis, which I don't prefer.
Yeah.
So when it gets a little overcast and rainy, I prefer that because I grew up in Washington State where we have rain for 8 months out of the year, and I love that. So this is like home to me.
Yeah. Nice. It's very pleasant.
Today's episode will be a little bit of a micmac. We're kind of just chatting and riffing on some stuff.
Yeah.
No specific topic. Hey, Lauren?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just kind of whatever.
Just
comes
vibing it
up.
out.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to vibe?
Yeah.
How many?
Couple.
2 vibes?
Maybe.
Okay.
If we're feeling up to it.
Deal.
Yeah.
So where do we start?
Where would you like to start? I know you had a couple of topics in mind for us to riff off of.
Today's episode is going to be on a couple cool things. Spiritual bypassing. Maybe a little bit of toxic positivity and what that means, what that looks like in the New Age community. And then we also have a very fascinating concept. Lauren's going to give us a tiny little lecture on a concept that she had brought up to me this morning, which I felt would be a powerful thing to teach on today's episode. And it's almost like using paradox. It's almost like a paradoxical sort of
Kind of.
reality creation.
Yeah.
You know, if you're familiar with Reality Mechanics, our show, we did an episode on paradox. Well, I was chatting with Lauren about the way predictive programming works and how predictions can work and having fear about future events. And she posed me with a very interesting technique she uses. Okay.
Yeah.
So that'll be another thing we chat about today. So what is spiritual bypassing? What's toxic positivity? Well, in the sort of new agey sort of like, communities, we have the concept that you're always supposed to be positive. You're always supposed to be high vibe, keep your negative vibes away from me type of idea.
Yeah.
And there's this thing that happens, whether it's conscious or unconscious, that people do who are in the spiritual networks and live spiritual lifestyles, is they use what's called as spiritual bypassing to sort of circumvent morals and ethics.
Yeah.
Okay. So what does that look like? Well, let's say you could have an opinion or a very ego-based perspective on something and use it to almost attack people or behave, in a way that's toxic, but you back it using your spiritual prowess and your spiritual new age sort of terminology and definitions, and whether that's just maintaining a constant positive attitude in circumstances when it would actually be a lot better for your mental, spiritual, and emotional health to actually feel how you're feeling. Go get angry, sit with your thoughts and do the shadow work, whereas spiritual bypassing sort of cuts past all that and uses new age terminology to sort of invalidate certain emotions, invalidate certain beliefs, and then can still get right back into like very ego-based sort of aggression, So
Can you give me an example of a situation where that took place that you've witnessed?
So yeah, let's say, for example, somebody using spiritual bypassing to get around morals and ethics. What you would do is you would say, for example, hurt someone emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, and then you would absolve yourself of any repercussions or any impact that they may have on the person or that aspect of the person that is yourself by then inserting a new age spiritual belief structure, practice, or terminology that's like, well, everything is really just about the self. And so, anything that happens to you is your problem and your responsibility to deal with emotionally and spiritually because, we can only ever really hurt ourselves, Say, for example, I am not hurting you. You're reacting to me in a certain kind of way that then gives you the result of a negative experience. Those are types of really toxic things that you see in the New Age community where it could just be arguing and bullying online, or it could actually be like spiritual warfare where you're just using New Age terminology and spiritual belief structures to circumvent ethical and moral situations. Absolving yourself in a sense of any sort of practical or spiritual repercussion of your behavior from the perspective like a spiritual superiority.
Yeah.
I am high vibration. I am God. I am source, and so are you. And so you're always responsible of everything that happens to you, no matter what. So I can do and say whatever I want coming from a high vibe perspective, even if my behavior is very toxic and damaging and hurting another person under the grounds of my spiritual beliefs.
Yeah.
And you have toxic positivity, which I strongly disagree with, where, you're always supposed to just look at everything from a positive perspective so that you're always just getting a positive result.
Yeah.
Well, for a long time, I subscribed to that belief structure because it made sense. And it can absolve you a little bit of some of the heaviness and the negative feelings that we experience from our circumstances. But then it bypasses shadow work.
Well, I think that that's kind of the perspective of people when they first get into learning about different types of manifestation and law of attraction and getting sort of edging their way into this this area of spirituality. They think it's all going to be love and light all the time.
Yeah.
Like if I am just positive all the time, positive things will happen and it's all up to me to just be wonderful and great
Right.
and happy and nothing can get me down and da 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 da. But there comes a point in your spiritual journey where you realize that like, no, you have to face your spiritual work. You have to do the work because otherwise, patterns are going to repeat and things are going to keep
perpetuating,
continuing.
and getting worse.
There's a meme of people. There's a lot of memes on Facebook or whatever that are just like, love and light. And then it's like shadow work.
Yeah.
Because it sneaks up on you and then you finally have to face it. But I think for the most part, the people that are perpetuating the toxic positivity aspect of spirituality, they're still in the early stages of their journey. They're for however long they've been in it, they're still in the early parts because they won't face the shadow work,
You have to do the shadow work. Spiritual bypassing and toxic positivity circumvents it. And these things, these vibrations, they stay with you and they ripple out and they, seep through the cracks in unconscious ways, that then manifest in our physical reality through circumstances that we oftentimes don't prefer. And you release these circumstances by doing the shadow work, sitting with the feelings that you have, getting angry. Okay. We're not blind faith, unrealistically positive in that sort of new age way. I have belief structures that I use to help sort of navigate my reality more definitively, more deliberately. But it's not using, just everything is love and light. This is not a love and light bullshit situation that we live in. And it's the people who actually resolve their beliefs around karma and not using karma as like a punishment tool. It's the people who sit with their uncomfortable feelings and their trauma and investigate it and
release it.
Release it.
I think the important part of nobody wants to really face the shadow. Obviously, that's just human nature.
Because it's the unknown. It's scary. It's hard.
Yeah. So I think that it's terrifying to do that. And it's so much easier to just be like, everything's fine. Everything's fine. And try to move past it and be positive. But once you sit with your trauma and your shadow long enough, you have to release it at some point. And there will unfortunately always be more. There's always more to uncover of yourself.
Layers,
positive or negative. And but it's just the initial sitting with it and releasing it that's the important part.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing I think that's important to address is that toxic positivity is a thing. Love and light all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Keep your vibes up. It makes sense, from a metaphysical perspective to a point,
mm-hmm.
but it needs to be taken on a case-per-case basis. And if you're just always, using affirmations that are supposed to like train you into thinking more positively, but underline current
mm-hmm.
frequency is still frustrated or angry or sad or struggling in some way, that frequency being a feeling universe that we exist in is what's actually creating your reality, not just your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole kit happening. There's a whole mechanism. Your thoughts are part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Your beliefs are a big part of it. Your frequency, your vibration is a big part of it. Your emotions are a big part of it. It's a total kit. You got to consider everything. You can't just say positive and think positive and actually be positive
mm-hmm.
if underlining current is very negative and oscillating at a slow frequency.
Right.
That's where spiritual bypassing and toxic positivity, it sort of confuses people.
Mm-hmm.
And they're still frustrated and they get angry at the law of attraction and the law of mirrors and metaphysics because their life isn't better because they're only using a small little portion of the kit.
Mm-hmm.
They're understanding that surface level new age aesthetic
mm-hmm.
without the actual work behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the digging.
Mm-hmm.
So that's toxic positivity,
mm-hmm.
a little bit of spiritual bypassing.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to use our spiritual beliefs to circumvent being responsible in terms of morals and ethics,
Mm-hmm.
coming from the perspective of, well, I create my own reality and I'm in charge. And that's true to an extent,
Mm-hmm.
but not when you're abusing it, to get ahead
Mm-hmm.
or to circumvent physics
Mm-hmm.
in a way that sort of works within the law of cause and effect. And that's not the law of karma. We've talked about karma. We'll talk about it again if you need to, but we're talking about different mechanisms here. What you put out is what you get back.
Mm.
Okay? So if you use spiritual bypassing to absolve yourself of any sort of moral or ethic repercussions, you're still hurting yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Law of mirrors, it still comes back on you,
Mm-hmm.
just like magic.
Because you're not growing or changing or anything. You're just kind of
Working around things.
Yeah.
So if you're familiar with Satanism or Luciferianism or all like the Illuminati stuff, they allegedly use a type of magic
Mm-hmm.
that is all based on spiritual bypassing.
Mm-hmm.
So what they want to do is absolve themselves and get ahead in every way by totally circumventing moral and ethical repercussions.
Mm-hmm.
It's a belief structure.
Mm-hmm.
And people are actually doing that unconsciously. So that's spiritual bypassing.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The next thing we want to chat about is we were talking a little bit about predictive programming, which we've done a whole episode on, and a little bit about how reality of the future is created through predictions and how the law of attraction and mirrors are part and parcel to what we experience and what we manifest for ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
and how you can approach that from either a thought process, belief structure, or, an exercise. So we were chatting about zombie films and how zombie culture has been sort of indoctrined into our society from, I don't know, maybe the 40s or 50s. I don't know how far back the concept of like a zombie apocalypse exists in our mainstream media and entertainment, but it goes back years and years and years. And it's like, there are like, 10 zombie films a year,
Mm-hmm.
both independent and big TV shows, movies.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a cultural phenomenon in terms of video games and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Zombies.
Mm-hmm.
And we were chatting a little bit about a zombie apocalypse, just theorizing on how that could happen and what that looks like, and parallel realities where zombie planets exist. And So that was the topic starter this morning between Lauren and I was mentioning how, predictions and projecting sort of what ifs and maybes into the future and how those can and can't manifest, or why they do or they don't manifest. And so when living in the now moment, but also projecting your consciousness to the future, what did you tell me, Lauren?
Well, I have this type of technique that I tend to utilize a lot, that I give a lot of power to because it works for me. And it's kind of like a reverse manifestation where I will, if I do not want something to happen, if there's a reality that I do not want to exist, I will imagine it in its entirety. And then I know that it exists somewhere else, so it won't happen to me now.
Okay.
So any situation where I'm like, you know what, I really hope it doesn't go this way, I will create kind of like a parallel timeline where it does exist so that it doesn't happen here. So if you take that idea and you put it towards, movies and TV, movies like zombie films could kind of work in that way, where it's a total pocket reality that exists somewhere, so it doesn't have to manifest here. That's why we don't really have a zombie apocalypse happening at the moment, is because we have a lot of media and universes where it is taking place that we can perceive and know that it stays there, so that we can live our
but not
reality
experience it here. Okay, I like that. I like that. And if you're conscious about that concept, we want to drive home being conscious about both of those parallel realities so that you can use it in your favor. I have 2 remarks on that. So my first remark is that there is a concept, okay, that everything exists in creation. Every thought that you have, imaginary or physically tangible, exists somewhere.
Right.
Always.
But yeah, that's the basis of it.
And whether or not you experience it is more so up to you. So there's this concept that in dreams, sometimes you have a nightmare about a person or an experience or a circumstance that you go through that's maybe scary or traumatizing or fearful. And it's the concept that we experience in the dream realm so that we don't have to experience it in our physical waking life. But that it did happen there, to a version of ourselves, to an aspect of ourselves that we're not tangibly experiencing in the here and now because it exists out there somewhere else. So I like that concept that what you're doing is you're taking a probability, right? Because any prediction is an opportunity to choose A or B, 1 or 2, left or right. That's what a prediction is. It's not an empirical truth. It's not reality. It's a probability. Anything discussed outside the now moment is just a probability. It's not an empirical, tangible fact. So let's say you don't want a zombie apocalypse. Well, then what you're doing essentially is you're moving the reality of a zombie apocalypse into another space that is tangible and that exists, but it is not your reality that you have to experience physically. So is that kind of what you're doing?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it can be applied to just about anything, not just, a zombie apocalypse or, but it can be for anything. Say you're going for a drive in a rainstorm.
Car ride.
And you're like, ooh, I don't want to hydroplane my car right now. You could just, it's maybe, I don't know. It depends on your attachment
Belief structure
to the imagination. Because for me, I have a knowing that what I imagine will not be, because it exists somewhere else.
You've placed it somewhere else in reality. I like that.
So for me, I'm like, I kind of imagine what I would do in the situation, and then I know that it exists somewhere else.
Right.
And it will not happen. So the tool itself, unless you have kind of like that knowing belief structure, it's kind of hard to operate because you might accidentally manifest the thing happening.
Correct. And I'll talk about that.
So, exercise this
awareness
with caution and awareness. But I use it all the time subconsciously. I will just as an instinct reverse manifest what I don't want so that I end up getting the result that I do without putting any expectation or pressure on the thing that I do want.
Okay.
Because I already know
Right.
everything else is eliminated.
Yeah, that's good. And this is an example of not doing total spiritual bypassing, but being more deliberate creator in your reality.
Yeah.
Because you're acknowledging this as a probability, as an option. And you're not saying, well, like, oh, through the law of attraction, I shall never experience this thing. Instead, what you're doing is validating it as a probable reality, but then choosing to prefer something else.
Yeah.
And you're saying, okay, this exists, but we're just going to move it over here and keep our focus on this thing.
And open up the door for more things
Yes.
than just the two options.
Yeah.
You eliminate one of the options and there are more, you know?
Love that.
Yeah.
Very good points. Very valid. And that brings me to my second response to that. So keeping in alignment to the theme of spiritual bypassing. I like that you're including everything and being inclusive, because that's another thing that in spiritual bypassing and toxic positivity, the ascension community, the spiritual community, the new age community will once again use spiritual bypassing to nullify them, absolve themselves of any sort of negative thing ever, you know, as if it's just can't happen to you in the 3D reality, which is why we're here, to experience contrast. So you're including both versions of reality, a zombie apocalypse and a not zombie apocalypse, a safe drive or a drive where there's an accident. And by being inclusive of all probabilities, you're not invalidating anything and shutting it out, which if you have a subconscious fear about, which you may not be aware of, it can still creep through. So my second response is, let's look at this from another angle. There's something called predictive programming, where mainstream media, television, entertainment, music, religion, politics, the news, it will do what's called as predictive programming, where it will present something to you as a concept. Usually fear-based, usually very negative, usually nefarious, usually malevolent concepts that are meant to put you in a low vibrational frequency. It will present you with an alien invasion. It will present you with a zombie apocalypse. It will present you with a very dangerous pandemic. Anything like that, you know, robberies, burglaries, assaults, they're all just shoved down our throats, constantly being advertised to us as a probable reality for you. What we do in the interest of self-preservation is we want to go into the fear mode and protect ourselves. That's why people panic buy and, you know, go through all these security measures and try to be super safe, you know, be safe. Because we don't want to manifest that negative experience that has now been advertised to us as an option.
Right.
So what I call predictive programming is the concept where this circumstance will be presented to you as something that could happen and you're now in danger of. It's now a real threat to you in your future if you choose to accept this. Now, if you don't understand the way reality works and how much of an active participant you are in what will happen next, then when you're advertised something is presented to you, you could take it as an empirical fact, as a real threat, okay? And assume it as your own and start taking actions to protect yourself from it, okay? Well, hashtag be safe is a kit that also involves not being safe and being in danger.
Right.
So you will
because it implies the opposite.
Thank you. It implies the opposite. So your defensive mechanisms will kick in and you'll assume the worst and you'll go on the defense and you'll want to protect yourself and your family. What that does is it invites the thing now into your reality as a real probable thing that you can experience because you're taking action on protecting yourself from it.
Right.
That's the paradox. That's this trick between reality. So predictive programming can be very damaging and harmful to the unconscious or the unawakened person that doesn't know the way that reality works and the way metaphysics work in terms of reality creation. So if you're advertised the next deadly thing, you don't know that you can choose not to experience that.
Yeah.
Even if other people do, you assume it as your own and now it's yours. Then you're taking precautions, taking action to be safe. Now you're inviting it. You're choosing that timeline. You're choosing that reality. You're making that yours. Okay? Because you don't know otherwise that it is something that you have the option to choose yes or no on. So what I think is really awesome that you brought up in your exercise, that is an empowering thing that you guys can sort of, practice in your day-to-day life, just going to the store or anything, is you can choose. You can sway the energy in a direction that you more prefer by accepting that you are an active participant in your reality and understanding that you're always being advertised to every minute of every day. Billboards, commercials, music, movies, TV, entertainment, politics, religion, healthcare, it's food. It's all an advertisement for you to say yes or no.
Right.
Buy this thing. You want to buy this sphere? You want to buy this shirt? It's all an advertisement. But you have the power to choose. And imagine it timeline splitting in, say, for example, a left or a right or an A or a B or a 1 or a 2. Now you can include both as being probable realities for you to experience, right? And you can imagine this reality playing out in your head, the one that you don't prefer, and do the shadow work on that. Feel how it makes you feel. Is it scary? Is it frightening? Does it make you angry? That's okay. But don't toxic positivity that. Don't spiritually bypass it and say, it's not real or it will never happen in my reality because I'm positive and my vibe is high.
Right.
Just accept it as a probable reality and be a neutral observer.
Yeah.
Don't react to it, respond to it. And say, you know what? I accept that as something that exists in creation, but I don't prefer to experience it. So I'm putting it over here, even when it exists. And paradoxically, I will experience maybe more so something I do prefer, the opposite side, by not invalidating this thing's existence.
Yeah.
Side tangent real quick. That's another really pet peeve of mine in the new age, spiritual community is like people just refuse to exist, that anything negative is happening behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Or that there's no nefarious agenda ever and we're all just conspiracy theorists and paranoid and, believing the illusions. But that's spiritual bypassing. That's toxic positivity. You're not being inclusive of all that exists in creation. What we're saying is you don't have to experience those negative things, but you do have to acknowledge that they exist somewhere in creation.
Yeah.
Whether or not it's yours or not is up to you. But that will help you be more inclusive. So if you invalidate something right away through your spiritual beliefs, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist or that it can't happen to you. If anything, you might be inviting it to affect you in other ways by being unconscious of it and shoving it under the rug and pretending that it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Be inclusive. You don't have to experience those things, but acknowledge them as probabilities.
It helps you become more of an active participant in the path of your life, because otherwise, like you said, if you invalidate something, it can affect you without you really realizing it, acknowledging it.
Right.
So as long as you're acknowledging everything and all the possibilities, you can become more active.
I love that. And so with the predictive programming thing, you see a lot more people experiencing the negative stuff that they subscribe to because they are less aware of how deliberate they create their own reality. And this is how the manipulation sort of really infects a lot of people mentally and emotionally by playing with emotions because they can't discern what's real and what isn't. And when something is advertised to them, it triggers them emotionally. Fear kicks in, they take action, and now that's a real probable reality for them. Whereas you can just acknowledge it as a probability that you don't have to experience, or you can if you choose to. Okay, that's the key word today is going to be choice and your free will.
Yeah. Like at all the openers of the Reality Mechanics episodes, take what you resonate with and leave the rest.
Exactly. So moving on as we come to a close of this episode, one option that I wanted to offer you guys, the listeners out there who like to participate in whether it's commenting or whether it's, asking us questions for our Q&A episodes, one thing that I'm toying with, if there's a demand for it, Miss Lauren and I would be happy to give this a try, is doing maybe a YouTube live.
Yeah.
Where we stream live and answer questions and just chat with you guys for maybe an hour. Would be something that I would be open to considering. It could be fun to a little bit more interactive with you guys, a little bit more hands-on. So if there's a demand for that, something you guys might like to see, then we'll pick a day that is good, a time and date, and we'll hang out YouTube Live. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Give
Totally.
it a try.
Mm-hmm.
So let us know if
Yeah.
you want. If you want to. If you want to.
do that. Quick life update. Just give me 1 second. I'll be right back.
What's going on here? Lauren? Where are you going?
I'll be right back.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
What? What is that?
Meet Nana.
Nana?
This is our new baby girl. Her name is Inanna, which means like
Little dwarf.
shorty,
Little shorty in Spanish.
like little baby.
This is Nana. She's our kitten. She's about 2 months old.
She's like 3 months now.
She's 3 months. She's 3 months old.
She's like 3 pounds. I love her so much.
She's very sweet. She's very cute.
She's very small.
She's small. She's very healthy.
Got, the cutest bent whiskers I've ever seen in my life.
She's got like these eyebrows. The whiskers are cute, but the eyebrows, they come out and they arc down.
Mm-hmm.
Like kind of like a willow tree. And she's very cute and very sweet. Miss Lauren, just very briefly, would you like to tell everybody where we got Nana, how she came into our lives?
So we got Nana when she was about a month old, from family, and she was like a farm kitten. And when I locked eyes with her, I knew that she was going to be mine. It was like an instant soul connection.
Yeah, soul
with
bond.
my sweet little baby girl. And so I texted Dan and I said, I'm bringing home this kitten. Hope you don't mind. And he said, I do mind a little bit. And I said, okay, but I love her. And you were like, let me meet her. So I brought her home and you guys instantly fell in love. And we've had her now for like 2 months, I guess. And she is tripled in size.
She's huge. She's small. She's small to you, but she's huge to us because when we got her, she was hand-sized, sweet little angel.
Yeah, and we were bottle feeding her and
Yeah,
all kinds of stuff. So, yeah, that's the new addition to the family.
sweet little tuxedo kitty.
Little Nana. It's Inanna, but we call her Nana for short, like the dog from Peter Pan. And that's all. I just wanted to show her off for some clout because she's the cutest thing I've ever seen in my life. And I'm very, very happy with her.
Yeah, little Nana. She's our sweet little new addition. So we have 3 cats now.
Mm-hmm.
We love her very much, and she's a good kid.
Mm-hmm. She gets along with the boys well. The oldest cat kind of took her under his wing, and he's teaching her,
raising her.
teaching her how to be a cat. So it's super, super fun to watch. So cute. And it keeps him active because he's getting older and he doesn't want to do much, but now he's got a friend to play with.
He's got new life.
Yeah. New zest.
He's got a zest for life.
He's got a new zest.
But
for life.
he's a good big brother, teaching her how to
Awesome
be a
kid.
cat. And it's beautiful watching her grow and learn and raising her. And
Yeah.
she's right here next to Dad here on the chair, but
Can I have her again?
you can have her.
Yeah, you.
Here's Nana. She's our
So.
sweet little angel.
To close out, that's so meta. You're going to cheers with Nana.
That's so meta, Nana.
Dink.